B2B companies are notorious for having some of the most boring marketing campaigns in the world, but these 4 companies are completely changing that narrative. They've generated millions in impressions on LinkedIn, with one of the company's marketing campaigns even leading to a $25 million injection in pipeline. So my name is Martin Ushona and I orchestrate marketing campaigns for startups ranging from the seed to Series B stage, all leveraging LinkedIn. And I've been able to generate millions of impressions that have led to pipeline generation, as well as helping companies close deals. And in this video, I'm going to leverage my experience and expertise to basically analyze and break down some of the best B2B marketing campaigns I have seen this year. So now when people think of B2B marketing, they aren't expecting much, especially when it comes to creativity and impact. Conversely, if you compare that to the world of business to consumer, where consumers care a lot about what their favorite brands have to say, to the point where they will literally revolt if a brand comes out with something that they don't agree with. 2 examples that I can think of just from the top of my head would be Jaguar's rebrand disaster. So Jaguar, the car company, did not understand what their consumer was expecting in terms of a rebrand. It was just a complete misalignment. And the second ad that I can think, or marketing campaign, would be the beer company Bud Light. They ran an ad with Dylan Mulvaney, and obviously it just caused a major meltdown on social media. So those are just 2 companies that completely misunderstood what their consumers were expecting, and it caused a great revolt amongst these consumers. And what we're seeing right now in the world of B2B is we're seeing that culture come alive, whereby consumers and people actually care a lot about, what different brands and different companies have to say, which is why now in the world of B2B, companies are becoming a lot more intentional and meticulous on how they run their marketing campaigns. And now let's take a look at some of these campaigns that have done well this year. So the first company I want to take a look at is a company known as Delve. So when going on to Delve's website, what we see here is that Delve is a startup that is backed by major VC firms, and what they do is they help, especially early stage companies, just eliminate the busy work of compliance, right? So building security that lasts. And what they did was they had a wild and wacky idea to actually send out doormats to their existing customers, partners, and different people that they wanted to sign on, right? And so what they did was they basically came up with, a cost analysis, see how much does it cost to actually do this in the first place. And all in total, I think they spend about, the number is here, $6,318 on these mats. And the ROI on this campaign was so huge that the $6,000 they spent on this campaign was just a drop in the ocean. And honestly, a 79x return on ad spend is something you will never see, especially when you're spending money on different social platforms running ads. So as this campaign was running and active, they completely dominated the entire LinkedIn platform. The different people who were receiving these doormats could not stop talking about it, and they were posting on their different accounts just speaking about how much of an out-of-the-box idea this was. So not only were they generating attention and sort of curiosity with the doormats, but they were also able to go viral on LinkedIn, which helped with pipeline generation. So now I want to talk about the key specific things that I liked about this campaign from Delve. And the first one being that, like I said, it was a completely out-of-the-box idea, which is why it stood out. So the last thing you would be expecting for a compliance company to be sending you is a custom doormat. And for me, because this idea was so out of the box, it is the main reason why it went so viral and exploded on LinkedIn. Now, the second thing that I really liked about this campaign was that it gave them free real estate in all the companies to which they send out these doormats. Now, if we take a look at how these doormats look, just based off size and how they look, is that Delve's logo is just a little bit in the corner here, but the main company that which they send this doormat out to is the one that is standing out. And that's very important, right? You want to have this item usable. And the only way that a company will actually end up using something like this on their doorstep or whatever is if it communicates their brand. And so having their brand logo really be the center thing, the main thing on these doormats, is why I think a lot of these companies ended up using these doormats for their specific offices, just because it doesn't look like something that another company sent out to them. Now, the third thing that I loved about this campaign was just how well it was documented on LinkedIn. So the COO of Delve basically made a very well detailed LinkedIn post. So you can be running the best marketing campaign ever, but if you are not documenting and talking about it, you are missing a key component, which is virality. And that is something that is genuinely achievable, especially when you have an outside out of the box idea. So I really loved how well documented it was. And not only that, the entirety of this post in itself was quite good. And obviously the CTA, being that, if anybody wanted to join the Delft team, they could actually just DM Celine herself. And so not only was it leading to pipeline, but talent was becoming intrigued and interested in the company based off of the marketing campaigns that they run. And for someone who's audacious and likes doing things like these, a role at this company would be a dream of theirs. So kudos to Celine and Delve for documenting the process so well. So now the second campaign that I want to talk about comes from a startup known as Reilla. Now their marketing campaign was something that was just so genuine, just such a nice touch, and honestly just put being a human at the center of it all, right? So basically the entirety of this campaign was they were going to Dreamforce. Now, Dreamforce is an event that is run by Salesforce, whereby the entirety of the B2B community comes under one roof to speak about different things and topics, right? So a couple of days before the event ended up happening, the team at Reilla realized that it was going to rain. And what they knew was a lot of people weren't going to check the weather, especially where it is that they were going. So what they decided to do was make about 1,000 umbrellas to give out to the different people who were coming to this conference, but didn't have an umbrella because they didn't know that it was going to rain. And lo and behold, almost 700 people all came without umbrellas, and they were running about looking for different shelters and hiding spots. But Reilla came to their rescue by offering them umbrellas. Now, if we look at some of the images here, you will see that it was pouring. That day was pouring. Obviously, it was quite a rainy day. People were wearing sort of rain jackets and all of that. And so this was a very, very well-timed campaign, and honestly was very scrappy. This was a campaign that was really able to communicate to their customer just what type of company Reilla is. And that's one of the things that I really liked about this. And so some other things which I really loved is the fact that they were able to build up goodwill with their audience. So anybody coming out to Dreamforce is a potential customer of Reilla, right? But what you will see is that on these umbrellas that they gave out to different people, you're not seeing any kind of QR codes, any link that they have to follow. It is just a plain and simple umbrella with Reilla's logo, right? And so this was very important because most of the time when you go to Dreamforce, you are being pitched by like 20, 30, 100 different companies. And so Reilla decided to take the different approach whereby they weren't directly pitching to these people, but what they were doing is giving out something that they needed at the specific time. And best believe that if anyone went home that day, they went to go and search what Reilla does because it is so rare, especially at a big event like this, for a company not to be trying to pitch, for a company not to be trying to shove a sales message down your throat. So just because of how rare this is, just led to a lot of curiosity, I'm assuming, in the people that received these umbrellas. And so another thing that I really liked about this campaign was just that an umbrella is a memorable piece of swag, right? So obviously you go to these conferences, you're going to get a keychain, you're going to get a bag, all different, little goodies, but you don't really end up using a lot of these things. But an umbrella, especially when it's pouring outside, is something that you need and you need immediately. So what I really liked about this, and I know I said this earlier, was the fact that it was the right product at the right time. So for different marketing campaigns, especially when it's a bit scrappy, timing and product really, really does matter. So the next marketing campaign that I want to touch on comes from a company called Default. So going on to Default's website to just kind of understand what it is that they do, essentially you can think of them as one of these go-to-market platforms that help with automating inbound with enrichment, scheduling, and AI workflows, right? And so the campaign that they ran was an idea brought about by their head of growth, Stan. And I'm not going to say his last name because I'm going to absolutely butcher it. So the campaign was that they were going to send out about 100 bottles of champagne to different customers, partners, influencers, and potential prospects that they wanted to work with. So they spent about $18,000 to send out these 100 bottles of champagne. And according to their head of growth, Stan, they generated about 40 demos from this campaign and $225,000 in open pipeline, which for me is a really, really good ROI from a campaign like this. So now I want to talk about a few different things that I really liked about this campaign. So number one being how well it was communicated and executed on. So 2 to 3 weeks before the launch, they were basically pitching the idea and asking for an address. A week before the launch, they were giving them an update on how far the package is and what's to come. And then a minute after the launch, they were prompting the people that they send these champagne bottles out to basically, support them by posting on their different social platforms. And so this leads me on to the second thing that I liked about this campaign, and it's the fact that they were able to ask the different people that they send these champagne bottles out to make a post about them on their different social media platforms. And so what this did was it also created organic virality, similar to Dell's campaign, whereby when you were scrolling on LinkedIn, it was essentially the only thing people were talking about on the timeline. So this organic virality does also contribute to them booking more demos for their pipeline. And so the third thing that I liked about this campaign was the fact that there was directly attributable ROI when it came to this. So obviously the numbers are not always going to be accurate, and you're not always going to get a down to the last cent type of number on how your campaign actually performed, but you want to get a good sense of direction in terms of numbers, just how much you guys were able to basically make back on your investment. And so this is one of the things when it comes to marketing campaigns, right? Which is that you need to understand what is your goal with this campaign. So with a campaign that we looked at previously, like Reilla, that was more of a long-term brand play, just to communicate what type of brand they are and to build goodwill with their audience. Now compare that to this campaign ran by default. And yes, they did send these out to, customers, partners, people that can't really, affect their pipeline that much, but they also send them out to prospects that they were trying to sign. So, this could have also helped close the deal. So you must understand what it is that you are trying to achieve with the different campaigns that you are setting out, right? So the goal is very, very important. Is it more sales? Is it just brand awareness and brand strength? What exactly is it that you are trying to achieve with your campaign? So the final marketing campaign that I want to take a look at comes from a company called Unifi. So Unifi is a go-to-market platform that basically helps companies find engaged buyers using intent data and AI. And what they did was they turned a simple fundraising announcement into a huge marketing campaign that led to a $25 million injection of pipeline for their company. So Unifi raised about $40 million for their Series B from different VC funds. And instead of just making, the traditional one or two LinkedIn posts with, press and media and TechCrunch and all these big startup outlets, they decided to go in a whole new different direction, which I've personally never seen before. And it created so much buzz and hype that once again, like with all these other marketing campaigns, they completely dominated the LinkedIn platform. So what Unifi did was they used a platform called Cameo, which basically has a list of different celebrities who are willing to do short little cameos so that you can send up to loved ones. So what they did was they got these celebrities to make cameos so that they can send them out to different customers, partners, and influencers. And this approach helped their fundraise go completely viral. Now, the reason why this approach that they took had so much organic virality was obviously because, having your favorite celebrity make a short video about you is great, but also it got people talking about their Series B fundraise without Unifi having to necessarily plead to people to post about it. Now, not only did they do that when it came to, their different customers, partners, and influencers with the cameos, but they also made sure that the different employees that work at the company that had their own separate audiences were posting about the fundraise. Now, most companies, they take the route of, coming up with a generic message, a template that almost everyone in the company can use. But this is not the approach that Unifi took. What they did was they allowed for their different employees to write a post about the fundraise, obviously giving them key points that they can talk about and can't miss. But essentially, the entirety of the post and the entirety of the message came from the different employees themselves. This allowed them to write something that they know their audience resonates with, so that, they don't end up writing something that, is in a language that their audience is not familiar with. And this is a very key thing when it comes to employee advocacy and getting employees involved in different LinkedIn posts and stuff like that. You want to be making sure that they are able to express themselves in a way that their audience remembers them for. You don't want to basically, shape the different message and kind of make them sound like a robot who is just regurgitating something that the company said that they need to put out. but give them guidelines and key points that they need to talk about and allow for them to actually come up with the entirety of the message themselves. And this is exactly what Unifi did, and it worked out so well for them. So this contributed to the already existing organic frenzy that was going on social media from the different cameos. Now you had different employees speaking about the fundraise, what's next for the company, and the different things that they are excited about. So another group of people that Unifi got involved into this entire campaign was their investors. So similar to what Default did with the champagne bottles, prior sending out emails asking questions about the address, Unifi did for their fundraise, whereby they emailed their different investors just notifying them that soon they were going to do their fundraise announcement post and that they would really love it if the different investors and people involved when it came to the fundraise would speak about it on their different social platforms. So when the day finally arrived, they obviously sent out the email that, they have posted and the different ways in which their investors can support them by posting on their social media platforms. But the most unique thing that I seen in this whole thing, especially when it came to telling their investors, is how they made a dedicated landing page to make it as easy as possible for anyone who wanted to amplify the announcement post that they made on LinkedIn and X. They even incentivized people with company swag so that they could take that next step forward. So a couple things that I really loved about this campaign was one, that it was multi-channel. Not only did they try their best to make sure that on LinkedIn that they were, dominating the timeline, but they also made a similar large effort on X to get their message out there. And another thing that I really liked about this campaign was that sharing was fun and easy. So Unifi made it as easy as possible to actually, post about and amplify the message that they raised their Series B. But not only that, it was actually fun in the form of the people who received different cameos. So this was really a great approach that they took when it came to this, because now people actively want to support them and they kind of feel the need to reciprocate the gesture that Unifi did for them. And so the last thing that I really liked about this campaign was just how much of their existing network was involved in all of this, from investors to partners to customers, influencers. All the different people that have helped make Unifi a success were involved in this fundraise announcement. So I really love the fact that almost everyone in their network, when it came to the success of their company, was involved in this big moment. And there's so many nuggets, lessons, and principles that heads of marketing and startup founders can take for their own marketing campaigns and their own fundraise announcements. So that brings us to the end of touching on all these 4 different campaigns. I really, really loved breaking these down and just understanding the components that made them successful. And one of the key things that I realized is just how well documented each of these marketing campaigns were. Because what you have essentially is you have the marketing campaign itself. So let's say it's the physical thing that you're doing, which is sending out champagne bottles, sending out doormats, and all these different things, which will get people posting, obviously. So the people that you send these things out to, they will end up posting about them, like 80 to 90% of the people. But then again, there's something essential that needs to happen when campaigns like this takes place. And that is that you need to document them well. You need to post about them on LinkedIn, because when you do something that's so outside of the box and you really do something that people haven't seen before, so the chances of you going completely viral and having that LinkedIn post, contribute to the demos you book, the revenue you make, is just exponentially higher. And so you need to make sure you document marketing campaigns well, especially when you do something that's unique and so outside of the box that people haven't seen before, right? And so that leads to, you going organically viral, which can contribute to you booking more demos and you driving more revenue to your bottom line. So personally, I'm very happy to see that the world of B2B marketing is getting a lot more creative, especially when it comes to their different marketing campaigns. I'm excited to see what the next breed of marketers have when it comes to ideas, ways of doing things. And so I am going to be covering all these different things that are happening in this specific world on this channel. And so if you're excited for that as much as I am, I would love for you to subscribe. And generally, if you just enjoyed B2B marketing strategies, then this is the channel for you. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.